Welcome to the Daily Word, verse by verse. Grab your Bibles and follow along as we study the book of Hebrews. Keep in mind, I am using the Holman Christian Standard Bible. So if you're using a different translation, the read is different, but the message is the same. Also, keep in mind that these Daily Word, verse by verse studies are uploaded to my YouTube channel, BP The Bible Perspective. That's BP The Bible Perspective. So like and share these videos and subscribe to BP The Bible Perspective. Now, we are in chapter 6. And I'm going to pick it up with verse 10. I'm going to go back to verse uh, 9. So we kind of dealt with, again, just the issue of once saved, always saved, as it relates to this verses from verses 4 through 6. Because people use that to, when you read it, just if you just read that, it sounds like it's saying something that it's not. So we said that you have to understand it in the context of the writer. Now, remember, the writer is addressing three groups of Jews. First, those Jews who have heard the word, they should have accepted, okay, but they're being lazy. They're staying in their unbelief. That's who this passage of scripture is referring to. Then there are those Jews who have believed, but sort of wavering, maybe, wondering. He's speaking to those. And then those Jews who are faithful, they've heard. And so he shifts now from the rebuke of those who should have believed to those who have believed. And so, verse 10 says, "For God is not just. He will not forget your work and the labor you have shown for his name when you serve the saints. And you continue to serve them. Now we want each of you to demonstrate the same diligence for the final realization of your hope, so that you won't become lazy, but will be imitators of those who inherit the promise through faith and perseverance." So he'll get back to, remember, he called those who should have been believing lazy, in that what? You're not believing, you're not diligent in your faith. You should have believed, okay? The verse 13, and again, so now he's shifted, he's talking to the faithful believers, those faithful Jews, okay, who have believed in the Messiah. Now he's going to exhort them, stay the course. And so verse 13 says, "For when God made promise to Abraham, since he had no one greater to swear by, he swore by himself." Now again, so he's reminding them the strength of their faith, not the Levitical process. He says, I will indeed bless you, and I will greatly multiply you. Verse 15, "So after waiting patiently, Abraham obtained the promise." So of course, the Jews know about Abraham. I would even go to say every Jew knows about Abraham. He is the father of the nation. And of course, for those who don't know, remember, God started the nation of Israel as the method to bring the Messiah through. So the promise to Abraham was 75 when God appeared to Abraham and said you would have a child. Now, at the time, he was married to Sarah. Sarah was barren, so they never had children. They never could have children. So when he said that he waited patiently, okay, it wouldn't be for another 25 years that Isaac would be born. Now, he also made some mistakes on the way. Ishmael was one of those mistakes that he had with his slave as a surrogate. So he says, verse 16, "For men swear by something greater than themselves, and for them a confirming oath ends every dispute." Now the oath, okay, in our day, oath means nothing. It has to be backed up by some type of legal backing. Back then, an oath was their bond. If you swore, it was your bond. And then, of course, if you swore by witnesses. Verse 17, "Because God wanted to show his unchangeable purpose even more clearly, to the heirs of promise, he guaranteed it with an oath. Now this is amazing here because understand a couple of things. Notice he says unchangeable purpose. And sometimes there's a question that comes up sometimes when you see unchangeable or the God is unchangeable. Understand what is being meant. And I think that's why I like this translation, by the way, because it also brings it out. His purpose is unchangeable. When God says that he is the God that changes not, well, he did change. I mentioned in one of the lessons where God started off as the firstborn of Israel would be the priest, and then he changed and made the tribe of Levi the priest. That was a change. But what did he, when he said that, he says his purpose is unchangeable. In other words, once he purposed something, it is then unchangeable. And then he says to guarantee it, and the whole purpose of him guaranteeing it by an oath was for us. Now watch this, because this is extremely important. Verse 18, so through two unchangeable things in which it was impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to seize the hope set before us. Now, the two unchangeable things is that the promise and the oath, right? Now, verse 19 says, we have this oath, hope, as an anchor for our lives, safe and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain. Now, let me go back. Remember, some of you all, you come out of traditional churches, especially Pentecostal churches, and you have people who say this, I just want to be ready when he comes. Or, I just want to make heaven my home. And notice he says, we have this hope as an anchor for our lives, safe and secure. Now, let's go back. What do we have? The guarantee, verse 17. God wanted to show his unchangeable purpose to the heirs, or to us. In other words, the reason why God made the promise, in other words, God didn't have to make a promise. His word is already bond, right? But notice he says this, and this is extremely important, that God wanted to show to the heirs this unchangeable and the solid secureness of his promise. This is the hope that we have. In other words, my hope is in the promise that God made in Jesus Christ, not in the Levitical priesthood. Right? That's what he's saying. It is not in the Levitical priesthood. God made promise, this oath. And he goes all the way back 450 years before the law ever came to the oath that God swore to Abraham, in you all nations will be blessed. Now, what is involved in that is, of course, the promise fulfilled is Jesus manifesting to what? Bear our sins. The hope that we have, this is my anchor of faith. Not whether or not my performance. I want to be ready when he comes. I am ready. I am ready right now. I want to be ready when he comes. I am ready. Why? Because I have his oath as an anchor of my soul. Why mention the soul? My emotions, my desires. Now also those emotions come with fears, doubt. Right? They come with fears and doubts. What calms my soul? The oath, God's promise. That's what I link to. Not what I deserve. Not my inadequacies. But the stability of God. That's what I hope in. Verse 20 says, Jesus has entered there on our behalf as a forerunner because he has become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. Now we'll get into Melchizedek later. Okay, we're going to get into him later in the next upcoming chapters, by the way. But I just want to, again, understand where our hope is. The lasting hope that we have. okay, is in the promise of God. Chapter 7 in the next video. I will see you then.